Oh,
All right. Morning, everyone. Reopen the committee conference in Senate Bill 357. And I think there was some research that was going to be done on what we talked about yesterday. Has there been any research done?
Yes, I believe the work that was to be done was to figure out what language would be consistent with the collaborative agreements, because the existing statute and what is in the Senate version references the previous supervising agreements, which no longer exist. So if we were to keep that, especially if we were to pass this again, which impacts that statute, we're referring to an out-of-date statute. So we have language to state consistent with his or her collaboration agreement. And we actually have a proposal to accede to the Senate with this amendment. It would include physician's assistant on line 3, and the language about the collaboration agreement. Otherwise, the rest of it, including the primarily responsible, would all be the same as what was passed by the Senate.
with no addition.
Yes. No addition, no extra complications.
Yeah, so we don't want to include, I thought we were all in agreement yesterday that we would include who is primarily responsible as defined in RSA 126. I thought we were going to include that reference.
So that is already part of the current statute, that in order to write a certification, you need to have a provider-patient relationship. So if we were to do that and added that to line 5, then that might call into question whether that applies to 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well. But that's already defined that provider is simply used in the written certification in the statutes, and a provider writes it for a condition if they have the patient relationship in person and whatnot.
Okay.
If I understand what you said correctly, if we were to add that language, we would basically maybe be more restrictive than we intended to be.
Well, we'd be complicating the situation, because every single one of the providers needs to have a patient-provider relationship already, have an in-person visit, have a review of the patient's medical record. That is all already on 126-X1. I believe it's 17, the last one for the written certification, as was handed out by Representative Merchant yesterday.
And
If I can, Madam Chair.
and when I went to law school, I was taught that every word in every statute was a pearl polished to perfection by legislators who sat there and obsessed over every one. But I think that what Madam Chair of the House Conferees has said is correct. If we add it in one place, then somebody who doesn't know anything about these negotiations is going to come up and say, well, why is it here and why is it not here, 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 and here? So having satisfied us and discussed it a bit, we believe it already applies. We don't need to refer back to it. That's just creating a little more muddle. So that's why we came out the way we did.
And if I could just pose a question. So section 4 says physician assistant already. I understand by adding it to section 3, I know that's limited to Maine, Massachusetts, or Vermont, but I guess by adding it to section 3, do you need to even do that if it's already in section 4?
So section 4 only refers to those physician's assistants licensed under, I think it's 328-D. Yes. So those would only be New Hampshire licensed physician assistants. The question is, a lot receive care, and that also has the primarily. It would be a good feature because we do have so much cross-border. You know, as I'm looking at the whole hospital funding thing, which I've taken a big deep dive into, we have so many patients who cross state lines for medical care in their normal routine business that if you look at somebody who lives in a border town, there's a very good chance they may be receiving their care from a physician assistant out of state. It seems reasonable to us, but is there concern on that section?
Just asking for clarification. I guess the question comes down to, are we comfortable with physician assistants from Maine and Vermont?
They would have to have collaboration. So
So-
yeah, the answer for me on that question.
Uh,
Because of the collaboration.
So
Just to clarify.
microphones.
Sorry, and clarifying, those 3 states, they require a supervisory agreement, which is a little bit different, but they have to have that. Yep.
And-
Can I just clarify one other thing? The reason why that language came up in the first place is we were dealing with a ton of oncology patients from Massachusetts that lived here and couldn't get access. And so by allowing out of state in the perimeter states to do that, those folks could get access to that care that they weren't getting from providers here.
Hope they offer us the same courtesy in return.
Good point. Good. We're not as smart as Boston.
Thank you. The question's been answered. Thank you.
I'm okay.
Me too.
I mean, I did get a slightly different version of this from somebody from the PA community, but I think this language works.
To Senator Bradley, I think in the one we all received was a reference to RSA 318D, which
No, it's referencing
328,
which is in the.
which is rule correct. So redundant. Okay, thank you.
Would you like to make the motion?
I'll move that the Senate agree to the House position to proceed to the Senate with the layout on it.
Second.
All in-
Did we get
Sorry.
that right, where the House is succeeding? Layout amendment attached.
Yes. And that was intended as a full committee amendment.
said
Yes,
it.
yes.
You said it to begin with.
Yes.
Proceeding.
Yes.
I
And-
sometimes get things.
Yeah. And,
He was
yeah.
acceding to the House's assumption.
We accepted yours, you accepted ours.
and the House members all agree to accede to the Senate with the amendment that we brought together.
Yes.
Yes.
Well done.
All those
Good
in
work,
favor?
everyone.
Say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you.
One productive.
We are done. Thank you.
You do the report.